Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Bensalem Township Council meeting. Today's date is September the 14th. We would like to give you the opportunity of addressing the council, if you like, by emailing us to publiccomments, that's public comments, at bensalempa.gov. And anytime starting immediately and throughout the evening, if you have any comments, you're certainly welcome to address the council in that way. I'd like to introduce all of you to our members of council that are here this evening, as well as supporting personnel. I'm Ed Kisselback. I'm the president of council this year. We have Joseph Plary, our vice president of council. Just wave to the people so everybody knows who we are. We have Joseph Knowles, the council secretary. We have Josie Sloan, council member, as well as Ed Tookmajian, also a council member. Also attending this meeting this evening, we have the Honorable Mayor Joseph DiGirolamo. We have Joseph Pizzo, our township solicitor. Russ Benner, he's our township engineer. Quentin Neron, also our principal inspector. And Debbie McBreen, our township recording secretary. I think I got everyone there, it looks like to me. That is correct. And we'd like to start the meeting by a moment of silent meditation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I could ask everyone to please rise for a moment. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Our second agenda item is public comment, and since we have, and that's on agenda items only, there were 2 agenda items this evening, so we'll extend that into the latter part of this meeting, and we'll accept comments as they come in. The third agenda item is the approval of the council minutes, and that's for the meeting of August the 24th, 2020. Are there any corrections, changes, deletions on the minutes of that date, August 24th? If none, I'll ask for an approval of that meeting, the council meeting.
Mr. Kiswick, I just wanted to note one item. Not a correction, I just wanted to say that the minutes, I liked how Deb broke out those comments towards the end of the minutes. They were real easy to read and well organized. So I know it takes Deb a little while to put these together, but it looks good. Thank you.
Okay, I'll make an motion to accept the minutes dated August 24th, 2020.
I'll second.
We have a motion on the floor, second on the motion. All those in favor signify with an aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any against? Any abstentions? That is unanimous. That was 16 pages of minutes. More like hours as opposed to minutes. Thank you, Debbie. All right, moving right along. Thank you for your comment also. Agenda item number 4. That's consideration of a resolution. This is regarding the Bensalem Police Pension Plan to reduce or eliminate participation contributions below the mandated rate of 5% of compensation subject to certain conditions on an annual basis. And John, I don't think I mentioned you earlier.
Quite all right.
All right. Would you like to make a presentation, John Kitowski?
Certainly, thank you. Good evening, Mayor, members of council. As I'm here every year, there are 2 items that I need to present to council to be in compliance with Act 205. The first requires no action by council. It's to read into the minutes the 2021 minimum municipal obligation financial requirements for the police, the non-uniform, and the non-uniform defined contribution pension plans. They've been prepared by our actuarialists. The police requirement for 2021 is $3,539,478. The non-uniform defined benefit plan is $429,258. And the non-uniform defined contribution pension plan is $180,000. Again, there's no action required. It's just to be read into the minutes. And then secondly is the resolution in front of all of you. It's decreasing the payroll deduction from the 5% to the 3.5% as we've done in previous years. So that is a resolution in front of you for adoption. And if there's any questions, I certainly can answer them now if you have any questions.
All right, gentlemen, do you have any questions on this proposed resolution? As John has said, this is something we have done on a regular basis, year to year. And depending on the finances, depends whether we determine the amount of percentage, whether it's a smaller amount or a larger amount.
I have one question, just the way the resolution is worded, and I'm hoping you can just shed some light on the subject. It says, whereas the township is satisfied that the conditions have been met in order to reduce the contribution rate. What exactly are those conditions? Yeah,
so the Act 600 says the normal contribution rate is 5%. But if we wanted to go below the 5%, which is done through contract negotiations, a resolution has to be adopted every year. So even though we're doing it now mid-year, we're in a 4-year contract period with the police already. So it's more of just a formality. We can do it at any point throughout the year. It's just we pick it now because that's when the MMO has to be read into the minutes as well.
Okay, and it's all retroactive to the beginning of the year, correct?
Correct, yeah. The officers have been paying the 3.5 since the beginning of the year.
That's what I thought, okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, gentlemen? Not hearing any, I'll ask for a motion to be put on the floor accepting this resolution.
So moved.
I'll second it.
We have a motion on the floor, we have a second. Any additional discussion? Not hearing any, all those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Any against, any abstentions? Unanimous?
Great, gentlemen. Thank you.
I'm sorry,
I
who made the
will,
motion? I think
have a
it
good
was
night.
Jesse. Who made
Thank
the
you.
motion?
Jesse made the first.
Okay,
Not
that's what
me.
I thought, okay. And took Majin seconded. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's correct.
That is, yeah.
Agenda item number 5, this is consideration of a minor land development for Amazon.com Services LLC. This is on 3750 State Road. This is a general industrial zoning, and it's a warehouse storage. The tax map parcel is 2-79-9-5. And Joe, are you welcoming in representatives from Amazon?
I am.
Okay.
Amy, first let me unmute you. Amy, who should be joining on your behalf?
So you should see Jeff Desort, and I think Nick Durso and Kyle Kessler. Those are the engineers. Okay, you should also see Samantha Mazzo and Tarun Sonkia from Amazon.
Who's 425-283-510? Who is that?
Hi, that's Nafis Uddin. I'm Amazon real estate attorney. Just dialing in to listen.
And then you should, I believe, LBA, Jonathan Goldsmith and Dave Poquette may both be on, and Matt McHugh, the attorney for LBA, may also be on. Say that one more time. We have a Fraser Baker. That could be, let me see here.
Yep. Fraser Baker is a transaction manager for Amazon. He's likely the one you're referring to.
Yeah, is that, he might be coming through as Annie Tarun, does that make sense?
I actually don't know. Fraser, is that you?
Amy, are you ready to go?
I am ready to go.
Okay, I knew you would say that.
Uh,
Well, we have quite extensive paperwork in front of us. However, this is a continuation of something that we've already approved. So this is a minor land development this time. Is that correct?
That's correct. This is minor.
And everything being said, since we have already approved this at one point, we have to discuss this evening a letter from T&M. Roger Matter is here also. The letter is from him. Oh, I'm sorry. My microphone was off for a moment. Well, we have a letter from T&M that discusses the subdivision and the land development here, minor as it is. And if we go to this letter from T&M and we go, I'm looking for the page number here, but not seeing the page. We're going to go to Chapter 201, Subdivision and Land Development Ordinance, the Saldo. This is Section D. And there are 1 through 28 subsections of Section D. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. Everything, we've all read this, and without getting too confused, are you going to comply with all those sections, Section 1 through 28? Is that my understanding?
Yes, we'll comply as to all of the Saldo comments.
All right, gentlemen, the applicant is going to comply with all the subdivision, Chapter 201, Sections 1 through 28. Are there any questions on any of those individual sections?
Yeah, well, I'd like to start by noting that we received a letter today that notes that they're not going to comply with all of them. They're actually requesting waivers on some of them.
No. So as Russ noted in his letter, number 1 is a waiver to allow this as minor land development because it is an amendment or modification of the existing land development application or approval. There are no other waivers being requested.
Okay, just that.
Yep, that's the only thing. Sorry if that was confusing. Yeah, that was specifically as requested by the township when we determined we were filing this as essentially a minor amendment.
That letter went out on my request because it got into the township very, very late, and I wanted to make sure that we had a copy of it as council members, and so I requested Debbie to get it out to us. I think you got it probably just before the council meeting. Is that correct?
I did, and I haven't had a chance to go through it in detail, and that's why I had seen at least the one comment was a waiver request, so I wanted to clarify.
So that was my mistake, but I wanted to make sure we had it in our possession, but you should have never gotten that. It was a letter that came through, but then corrections were made, and so there are no waivers being requested. That's what we're being told, okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right, then let's move on from there. Amy, we're going to go to, that takes care of that part of it. We'd like to move on to the same letter, and we have the stormwater management. Your proposed 1-year, 10-year, and 100-year plan is less than what is existing at this time. Is that correct?
I'm going to ask Jeff Desort to confirm that, but I believe that's correct.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and quite substantially for the 100-year flood plan, it's 230 is existing versus 70.44. So it's quite an improvement, which is important in that area. Okay. Moving on from there into a different letter. Let's go to.
Wait, Ed, can we back up for 1 sec? On those stormwater management calculations,
Go ahead.
this is an additional improvement to the construction project that we've already approved 2 years ago?
this should
Jeff, do
be,
you want?
go ahead, Amy.
Sorry, I was just going to ask Jeff to just fill him in on that and clarify that.
Yeah, sure. So the original approval, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 detention ponds or rain gardens in addition to an underground detention system that was already approved as part of the original approval. None of those stormwater basins are being changed at all. What we are doing is on the west side of the property with some additional added impervious area just in that area. We've canceled out impervious, we're not adding, but on that side, because of some additional impervious area and grading, we added an additional stormwater detention basin. And those, the stormwater management report that was submitted addresses all of the stormwater as well as specifically the one that we're adding.
So these really aren't a change from the state it is now. It's a change from what was before the construction occurred.
Correct. Yes. It's overall comprehensive.
Comprehensive. Okay.
If I could just quickly, Joe, could you also let in Samantha Mazzo? She was having difficulty logging in, but she should be in now. Samantha's also from Amazon. There she is. Thank you.
Russ, do you have any issues with that? That the calculations are, comprehensive from the original?
No, we reviewed them against the original calculations as well as with these new, what I'll say, minor impervious coverage improvements. And we're satisfied, obviously, with the results of the stormwater management design for this amended land development.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. And moving on then to TPD, that's our Traffic Planning and Design Engineer letter dated September 10th, 2020. Are there any issues that Amazon is not going to comply with or would like to consider having a waiver on?
There are no waivable issues under the TPD review letters. I do want to note we had a July 1st review letter from TPD that was followed up by a couple of meetings, one with Amazon, the Amazon team and Phil directly, and then another with the larger planning staff. And so we supplemented the July 1st traffic review with an August 5th response that outlined a summary of those conversations. We don't have the September review. I think Phil was holding that until after this as part of the sort of plan cleanup. But based on my conversations with him, I think end of last week, that was reflective of that August 5th response from CESO's engineers.
Does, not that you have the the letter from September 10th, but does that include Phase 3 also? I would think it would, even though that's, even though it's not.
It does, Mr. President.
Who said that? Who was that?
Phil.
Phil Worcester.
Oh, I didn't even see you there, Phil. Okay, sorry, I didn't even know you were on there, Phil.
Oh, that's all right. That's all right. And Amy's characters, I apologize for you not having the letter. I'm not sure what happened there, but it's exactly what we had talked about over the last few weeks and most recently on Thursday, that it's a compilation of all of our comments, and all of those, as far as I know, Mr. President and Council, that these are all will complies. There's nothing that has changed since my discussions with the applicants. That's right.
Are you fine with that then? Is that correct from Amazon?
To the best of our knowledge, that's correct. I mean, we'll take a look at that letter if they can circulate it after. If there's any follow-up or concerns, we'll certainly come back to council. But I have all faith in Phil that it summarizes our prior conversation.
Right, and we're not approving Phase 3 as of yet anyway, so you have that
Correct.
opportunity to address it at that time. But it is inclusive of the whole package, because that's where we're heading as far as the finality of your development.
Right. So for purposes of traffic improvement review and comment, what we did was include all of the Phase 3 information so that Phil could see all of that at once, even though you're not going to be reviewing and approving Phase 3 until further down the road. It allowed him to identify the traffic improvements that the township believes are required and that we are posting relative to. So that's why you're sort of seeing that overlap at this point, even though you're really not going to see Phase 3 until a later date.
All right, thank you. Gentlemen, are there any questions individually you have for Amazon as far as what we're doing tonight and where we are?
Ed, I had a question.
Where'd you go?
In the recent letter, this is Joe Knowles. In the recent letter we got, it said something that someone needed to confirm that the sidewalks were paid for already in lieu of. It was I scanned it pretty fast, but I think it said it had to be confirmed that they made payment for not having sidewalks along State Road in lieu of that payment was made. Has anybody done that?
Well, wouldn't that have been done last time? We approved it?
Ross?
Yeah, I think that was something that Russ's office was going to check. Under the prior approval that Ivy secured, there was to be a fee in lieu of for not installing sidewalks along State Road. So I think Russ's office was just confirming whether or not that box had been checked on the Ivy side of things.
I guess if it wasn't paid, then you would pay it in the future.
Right. It would be the obligation of I should say it would be inherited by the current property owner, which is LBA. Amazon is a tenant here, so we can sort through that certainly.
And has anybody in the Bucks County review, not to go off the Planning Commission, it mentioned something that the front of State Road could have some kind of trail system or something, or future trail system along the front. I don't know if the trails are for that side of State Road, actually. I think they were concentrated on the other
It was
side.
the other side, Joe, the other side of State Road,
The other side.
the Chamonix Park side.
Okay, so they don't need that. They just said that should be a consideration, that we could take the trail thing into consideration, but I think it does go on the other side of State Road. Okay.
Right. So there is trail along, obviously along the Chamonix Park side, and as part of the traffic improvements that we've scoped out with Phil, those intersection improvements at Winks and State will also include ADA accessible curbing and crosswalks that will allow for pedestrian connection across State into the park, where it currently doesn't exist.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Yeah, I had several. Mr. Kitzback, we're ready.
You're on.
I just want to, I have a question on the traffic impact study, but I just want to go back a little bit. On our original approval, it included some improvements to that intersection at Winks and State Road. Where does that stand? Has that been completed at this point?
No, Mr. Takmajian, that is going to be revamped. The existing design is going to be revamped into a much larger, more, I guess, standardized widening of Winks and State Road. It's the one that was proposed by LBA for the Ivy development was much smaller. And this is, for lack of a better term, is a much grander plan, providing wider lane widths and so forth for trucks, improved radii, the sidewalk and ADA stuff that Mr. Knowles inquired about. All that is now in this, including a brand new traffic signal where the last plan was going to have a modified traffic signal with just kind of making some minor changes to that. It's also enhanced by a right-of-way acquisition as well that makes that corner much better for not just the Amazon use, but anybody else using Winks and State and making those turns.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. I guess my concern, though, is that at what point would we require, regardless, I mean, we knew that this application was pending in the township, and I get it, but at what point were we going to then ask for those improvements to be completed? I'm assuming there's some timeline for when that approval came through and when those improvements came through. And Phil, the reason why I'm asking here is, and one of my big concerns with this project is the fact that a lot of these improvements, and correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of these improvements aren't slated until phase 3. And in my mind, if we're going to see this kind of traffic, and I understand this site demands this traffic, but if we're going to see this type of traffic, you would think that the improvements to the roadways would be done first before we start seeing a lot of those trucks and vans coming through.
That's a good question. The original project was assumed by Amazon and expanded, and that's basically why it is where that is. And the issue of getting permits and doing the design is much more elaborate than what was previously approved. As an example, the stormwater management along State Road is completely modernized and changed. So it's going to take them some time to fine tune that design and get the PennDOT permits. And I don't think the issue is of them building this during phase 3. I think the issue is it's probably going to take that long for them to get through the PennDOT and the township process, frankly, with regard to the design of that. As a placeholder for that, we've asked the applicant to put up $2.5 million to ensure that that is going to be completed. We just don't see that being permitted until probably construction, maybe, if we're lucky, next summer, the beginning of next summer.
Okay, so let me play out a scenario then real quick with you, if I would. Because Amazon is not the owners of this property. So if we've already approved the plan that required, I think it was roughly anywhere between $250,000 to $500,000 in site improvements along that intersection, and if we approve this plan and Amazon for some reason decides not to go and settle in here in this building, what now happens to that escrow money is my first question. And 2, can we default back to the original plan to ensure that those improvements still get completed by the actual owner of the property?
Well, my response would be more of a pointing to our solicitor with regard to the legal issues of the escrow. But it's my understanding that that's security, that is done. And if Amazon walks away after an approval or starting work, or anyone else goes bankrupt, whatever would happen, then that would be default. The escrow would now turn over to the township to complete that project. And also, at that point, we would also know that there really is not going to be any traffic if Amazon's not going there. But nevertheless, we're still going to get that improvement done, which is a significant public improvement. And we're getting that as secure, that $2.5 million as security.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Amy, did you have something you wanted to add in there real quick? I think it was.
I just wanted to also note that one of the reasons that we split the phase 2 and 3 the way we did is because the phase 2 operations is much more in keeping with, and in fact, a lot less intense, I think, than the approval as originally granted for a much larger trucking operation at that site. So you're really not going to see an increase in sort of an anticipated level of traffic and activity at that site until phase 3, which is when all of those traffic improvements start to come online. So we were pretty careful in our early conversations with the township in trying to find that line and where that balance, to strike the balance where we could, so that operations could begin while we were seeking those permits, and that those permits and all of that work would come online at the same time as the more intensive use that's anticipated as part of phase 3.
Okay, well, I mean, I tend to disagree with you only to the fact that there's an increase in traffic. I mean, there's going to be an increase one way or another. Right? We're going to see trucks, we're going to see vans, and we're going to see consumers going down there. So, from a township perspective, I think we just need to make sure that we're prepared for handling that traffic. I get my next question goes to the I think there's lock boxes there. I mean, I didn't see any traffic pattern for those consumers that are coming to pick up product. And I would imagine it probably won't be heavy, but is there some type of traffic pattern to handle? Because you have big rig trucks, you have a lot of vans coming through there, and then lastly, you have a lot of consumers coming in there picking up product. Is there a plan to handle that traffic?
I think that may be best answered by either Jeff or one of the Amazon operations folks. Jeff, it looks like you just unmuted.
Sure. So in relation to all the traffic, inclusive of any type of anticipated pickups or vans, trucks, all of that has been included in that traffic study. So we did a comprehensive, full analysis of the surrounding roadway system as well as including the traffic that's generated that way. So for any type of associate or person that is coming into the site.
All right. I have a couple questions on the traffic study, but I was just specifically speaking to the site itself. I mean, it's a little tight, and I see the reasoning behind phase 3, increasing the parking there. It didn't seem, based off of the 37 different plans that we received, I didn't see traffic flow to keeping the consumers safe, that they're going in there to pick up their product when you have a lot of vans going all the way around that building, and a lot of the truck traffic that's coming in on the east side, I think it was.
So the truck traffic will be separated. That traffic is going to be entering into on the west side of the plan. And that's traffic has been separated from any type of any of the associates or any type of customer that may be coming onto the site. The vans will, and during phase 3, the vans will be actually entering in off of Winks Lane and using the parking lot that's in the rear of the site in Winks Lane, so that traffic, as best as possible, has been separated from the associate traffic or customer. And then the customer will be, an associate will be able to enter into the site off of State Road and make their way back to where the office portion of this project is, and it's going to be located. And then there'll be opportunities for them to park up against the building to pick up any type of package. Now that I will say that by and large, this is not a customer facility, but there is an opportunity for pickup. The primary traffic that's going to occur that is happening in personal vehicles are going to be for mostly the associates that are entering the site to work there.
Got it. Yep.
I just want to follow up on that quickly, and I'll ask either Tarun or Samantha, who are on, to confirm for me, but there's no locker pickup at this location. So it's not a traditional sort of orange locker designated pickup that you might see in other locations. I think, to Jeff's point, there may be, an occasional customer pickup for one reason or another, or associates are picking up their own products, but it is not locker pickup in the traditional sense. So there's not going to be much, if any, overlap between associate traffic and customer traffic. And Tarun, can you just confirm that for me?
Yeah, I can confirm that there is no customer pickup here, and that includes no associate product pickup as well. So we don't allow our associates to pick up product from this facility as well as we don't for our regular customers. So just to clear that out, there will be no customers coming to this facility.
All right, thank you. My other question, Jeff, and you brought that point up as far as all the vans coming onto the property from Winks, and I know there's current access there now. However, part of phase 3 is you're going to open that up a lot more for primarily parking, and I think it'll give it a little bit more space in terms of being able to maneuver those vans. Do you intend on opening up and starting operations prior to phase 3, or is phase 1, 2, and 3 going to be completed before you start operations out of that building?
Jeff, I think that question was for you.
Yeah, no, I was just trying to find my unmute button. Sorry about that. And actually, I would defer to, I will defer to Amy. We proposed and included in your plan should be a phasing and operation narrative that spells out what the intent of the various phases and how that operation would work.
Okay. So is it yes or is it no, Jeff? That's what so you are, so I'm assuming then you're going to start operations prior to completion of phase 3.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. I did have a question on the traffic impact study. I noticed the hours of operation for this facility is going to be, I think it was 1:30 a.m. to 10 p.m. So, and maybe Phil can help me out with this. You know, when you're talking about AM and PM times, are you looking at, I guess my first question is, what is going to be the shift times? And was the traffic study looked at in terms of the shift times, not necessarily our normal standard AM, PM rush hour times?
Well, again, another good question, but everything was taken into account. So the amount of improvements that Amazon is doing on State and Winks are essentially more than enough to accommodate all the hourly traffic associated, whatever hour that would be, with Amazon. So we're designing for above the worst case scenario. That's what we've insisted that Amazon do here. So regardless of the amount of traffic, we did the worst case and then took their numbers that might be 10 cars an hour and said, well, let's design this thing for 100 cars an hour, that type of thing. So we're as wide as you can get. We're getting the best signal we can get and the best operation we can get, almost independent of what happens on that site.
Okay.
So.
Okay. And I guess another question that I have, this facility would certainly open the door for a significant economic impact here in Bensalem, in this area. Is Amazon looking to do anything to ensure there's a certain percentage to look at and employ Bensalem residents through this new application?
So, and again, I can let Tarun and Samantha speak to that in more detail, but generally there's no guarantee on how many local versus non-local residents can be hired. But as we spoke to staff early on in this process, there's just by virtue of sort of the nature of the beast in these types of operations, a large number of those jobs do end up being local. We can't necessarily guarantee a certain percentage or range, but the reality is that because of the type of operation, they generally do tend to see an increase in in local employees. We're also talking about a lot of employees. So I don't know how your tax structure works if your earned income taxes are paid to you or where somebody lives, but we generally see an uptick in overall tax revenues for municipalities in these kind of circumstances, even if the, for example, majority of employees aren't necessarily local. Tarun, is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair. And I think I would like to add that.
Well, it's not fair. It's City of Philadelphia. We don't cooperate with them when it comes to city wage tax or our taxes. They get it all. We don't. They don't reciprocate anything to us. So I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it's not.
No. That's a fair point. No, what I was gonna say is that we have worked with multiple different townships in the area, around the area, where we have partnered. Our recruitment teams have partnered with the townships and the economic development departments within townships to hold job fairs for local residents. That's something that we can definitely do as a part of this project, if you guys wish. But as Amy said, there is no way for us to sort of guarantee that number. That's just we have to live with that.
Yeah, that's fine. I understand you can't guarantee a percentage, but I mean, even though there's an economic boom to it, to Bensalem, there's also, on the flip side, there's an impact to it, right? So residents are going to be feeling the impact of the traffic and what other issues that may arise. So all I'm asking is, will Amazon make some type of good faith effort in ensuring they look at Bensalem residents for employment?
I don't know if that's legal, Ed. I mean, I don't know if you make part of the criteria for hiring as far as.
I won't make that part of a motion, Mr. Kisbay. I'm just a point of thought.
He said he would do that. He basically said he would do that.
Yeah, well, that's the point I'm making. I mean, the location is going to determine who's going to be working there, and since residents of Bensalem live closer to this facility than those from different areas, that would certainly generate an amount of people from Bensalem working there, but I don't know if you can make that part of a criteria in any way and have it be legal, saying, well, to become an employee, your first preference is to someone who lives in Bensalem. I don't think that, as far as I would think, would not be legal. Now, in good faith effort, I'm sure they're going to make it available to residents of Bensalem, but I think we're going beyond what we're supposed to be here for tonight anyway, Ed. I mean, I really think we are. Way beyond what we're here to vote on this evening.
Mr. President, could I ask a question, if it's okay?
Sure.
Ed, okay, I'm sorry. I didn't know Mr. Techmajor was done, but one is the attorney just made a statement that it will have a larger impact employee-wise. Like we had heard that when we approved, the other company was supposed to have a certain amount of employees. What number are they talking about as far as employees that will be needed at this facility after phase 3 when it's fully running and operating? How many employees you think that you'll be hiring at this facility?
I'm looking for that number. Tarun may have it faster than me, but
Amy, I can address.
Samantha, do you have it? Perfect, thanks.
Yeah. Samantha Mizzo from Amazon. Essentially what we're anticipating here is approximately 100 Amazon employees would be working in the warehouse. And then in addition, there'd be approximately another 215 employees who are associated with the delivery van drivers. So between the drivers themselves, and then they're going to be approximately 50 managers for the drivers. So that gets you to about 215 on the driver side. And then on top of that, there are the individual flex drivers who I think Jeff referred to previously, who are also paid, approximately $22 an hour. So in total, you've got, about 360 jobs that would be generated by this site. And that's just the jobs that are generated on the site. I mean, I think we also have to think about it in a broader way of the number of people who are employed because they're supporting the jobs, people who are helping to work and to clean the station, clean the delivery vans. Those are all extra people that are not included in this number, as well as any other individuals whose, just general employment is increased because of the opportunities that are created here. So individuals working at gas stations will now have more people coming to serve the gas stations. People who work at convenience stores who will now have more traffic because and more patrons because there is this 350 person employer down the street. So when we think about it by the number of people that are hired during the steady state within our particular facility, but I'm sure the positive impact really reverberates and goes beyond.
Okay, I just wanted the number out there.
Thanks,
So,
Samantha.
in general, how many employees? So that's a good number. It's going to be a positive thing. I had one other question. I was muted and I didn't get a chance to ask about the water. And then Phil had mentioned also that they're doing additional stormwater management along state roads. So I'm assuming that the potential for flooding or The drainage off of State Road is going to be highly improved with them doing additional stormwater work, even beyond what we already approved. Can Phil answer that?
Yes. PennDOT has a lot to say about that, but essentially making the stormwater as good as they can. This area isn't as prone to flooding on this section of State Road as further to the south. But nevertheless, they're going to be putting new pipe in from basically their frontage down State Road and also along Winks Lane and all roadway work. There's also going to, and one thing I have to add is one of the improvements is they're putting in a left turn lane on State Road to make that left into Winks. And that's a big issue with regard to safety, but it also adds some impervious when you widen for a left turn lane. So that impervious is going to be handled with this new stormwater as well. We've met with PennDOT on this. You know, they're anticipating this whole project, and you know, State Road, Joe. Anywhere where we can get drainage and take it to a spot where we can manage it is really important. So they're doing this.
Russ, you want to make a comment on that also? He's our township engineer.
Yeah, and I agree with what Phil's assessment is. That's absolutely correct. I think the other thing to note too is, you know, when you look at the plan, you see a lot of impervious coverage on the site now, and then even subsequently when phase 3 is done. Majority of that water, one, is handled in detention basins. Two, it's released on the north side of the site, not towards State Road. So the good news is any widening on State Road, new and additional stormwater drainage, which is a tremendous benefit to State Road. But just keep in mind, majority of the water from the site goes to the north, away from State Road.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, gentlemen?
Yeah, I do. Phil?
Yes.
Are we taking into consideration the road work that PennDOT's supposed to do on State Road? We're not going to have any problems with them with the left turn lane or any of those type of things moving forward. So are you guys working together with PennDOT if they ever do the project, which they're putting in place? We're making sure this isn't going to be an issue, right?
Well, it looks to me right now, Mr. Valeri, is that we're going to, that PennDOT is going to pave that road shortly. And Quentin's a little closer to their maintenance manager right now than I am, but they're running out of time if they're going to get to State Road. If that's the case, we may be able to accommodate everything at the same time. Because of COVID and everything else, a lot of this kind of stuff has stopped, and PennDOT held off long enough as far as they're concerned in paving State Road. Their point being that once we accommodate this developer, another one's going to come in and do the same thing. So when can they really get on the road and work? So we're diligently working with them, and I know they started somewhere else in I think in Bristol first, right, Quentin? I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, that milling operation started this morning at State and Station, so they're working north right now.
So we're not going to make it then. They're going to pave that road before Amazon gets in.
Okay, so then that's not going to be an issue.
No.
Amazon will be making the changes to make sure that we have that left turn in. And I think widening the road and at Winks Lane and doing the extra things that are being done is going to be safer for a lot of people and keep people in a better safety issues.
Agreed.
Gentlemen, any other questions?
I have a question for, I guess, either Russ. Russ, since phase 3 won't be completed before they start operations, is there sufficient parking on site based off of full operations of this facility, based on what's proposed for just phase 2?
Yeah, actually, from a phase 2 standpoint of view, they're providing, I think, 284 spaces. And I'm just looking at my review letter, but I know from a fact that they don't even need that many parking spaces. So there's adequate parking on phase 2 for their operations.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And I think my last question, there are some residents that abut this property, both on State Road and on Haunted. Is there anything that we're doing to try to mitigate any concern of noise levels, being that this is a facility that's going to be running operations overnight?
So yes, as to both. So with Haunted Lane in particular, all of the requirements that were in place under the prior approval, so emergency access only, no commercial use of Haunted Lane, et cetera, that all carries forward. We're not changing anything with respect to the operations at the Haunted Lane end. And as a matter of fact, and I think in our conversations with Phil last week, we said if the township decides they want additional signage along there beyond what was previously required under the prior approval, we certainly can do that. On the State Road side, some of those pieces are in a bit of flux. That corner property is under agreement. Actually, LBA has that property under agreement and intends to purchase that, which will allow for the full scope of the intersection improvements there. That house will come down. That will allow us to do all of the widening that Phil's looking for along there, and will allow for the extension of sidewalks along there as well, which we were just not going to be able to fit without acquiring that corner. There is an existing fence that was installed along the rear of those 5 properties and landscaping that was required as part of the prior approval. That's all staying. We've also added some additional landscaping across that drive aisle to further buffer the noise with respect to the truck loading docks that are going to be at that sort of Winks Lane frontage there. Amazon also has more stringent noise requirements even than the township's requirements, so they'll be testing continuously for that. So we're quite confident that we're well within township's noise level requirements.
Okay, thank you. And the acquisition of the corner property is part of phase 3 then, correct?
The acquisition of the corner property will happen before phase 3 starts, but that work will happen as part of phase 3.
Thank you.
There is one property that you're acquiring, is that correct? And you're attempting to acquire several others?
Yes, so that corner property that we were just speaking about, the corner house at Winks and State Road is under agreement. LBA has that property under agreement right now. So that we're anticipating they'll close shortly, I think. It's within the next a couple of months, if I'm not mistaken, which will allow for all of that intersection improvement. LBA has continued to reach out to those other 4 properties along State Road. We realize that's where the sort of primary impact from this project is. They've had mixed success, quite frankly. A couple of those homeowners are interested in a discussion about an outright purchase. A couple they have not really been able to reach. So they're continuing to have that conversations and make that effort to reach out to those folks and try to get those under agreement if we can. If we cannot, the traffic improvement plans along that piece of road frontage don't actually require outright purchase. The improvements there can be accomplished through a temporary construction easement that will not impact the homes themselves. So if we had to go that route, we could do it by temporary construction easement and still get all the improvements the township's looking for along there. We think that the cleaner route obviously is to acquire those if we can, but we obviously can't force somebody to come to the table if they're not interested in selling.
So at a minimum, you'll be asking the township for a temporary construction easement.
If we can't get anywhere with them, and again, we also can try to negotiate a temporary construction easement. So I think we have a couple of steps we can take before we would have to come to the township and say, we need your help here. But it is possible, certainly, if we can't get somebody to return a phone call, we can't get them to answer a knock on the door, we might need some assistance with the township to engage on 1 or 2 of these homeowners. But there's an open currently, and the LBA folks are on, so they can correct me if I'm wrong. But
right.
Putting aside the corner house where we already have it under agreement, there's 4 remaining. There's an open dialogue currently with, I believe, 2 of those 4 owners. A third is a little on the fence, and 1 they have not been able to reach out or to contact at all.
Thank you. Any other questions, gentlemen? Not hearing any, we're going to go through comments.
Sorry, I have just a couple more. What's the timeline for completing this construction and beginning operations?
For phase 2,
For all of it?
for all of it, I'm gonna ask Tarun if he's got a more current overall timeline for phase 2 versus phase 3.
Yeah, for phase 2, we are looking at sometime middle of October to be able to start operating. And that will be basically contained within, as I think Russ mentioned earlier, that's a phased part of the project. It has all the parking that's required contained on the site. And then phase 3 is something that we are expecting sometime mid-February to mid-March, again, depending on how weather conditions are and all the other sort of factors that go into it.
Okay, so and you're looking to start operations or complete the construction improvements in mid-October?
So the phase 1 and 2 construction and construction will be completed and operations will be started in mid-October, but that would be just for phase 1 and 2.
Okay.
All right, gentlemen. Is that it for our questions? If so, I'm going to ask Mr. Pizzo to read. We have some letters for public comment regarding this specific development. And as soon as he's prepared.
So the township has received a number of email from a single resident, Larry, I'll spell the last name, Tankelewicz. Tankevich is how I would pronounce it. Hopefully I'm right. There was an email that was received this morning, and then several that have come in through the meeting. Some of them are a little repetitive, so I'll try to do a little editing on the fly where I can. The first one, I believe all the members of council received this morning. It was emailed by Mr. Tankevich to a number of you, and those of you who didn't get the email this morning, the administration circulated it. So again, all of you have seen that one. Writing to inform you of his opposition to Amazon's use of the property directly behind his house, that property being 3750 State Road. He's opposed to their 24-hour operation within such a short distance to his house. It will directly impact his rights to the peaceful use of his property. They will be bringing more truck traffic to the area, creating more noise, as well as additional wear and tear on the roads around his house. He was sick during the initial council meetings for the zoning of the building. He wrote to the township council at that time. He's opposing the application to finish the development. He's going to continue to oppose this. He's asking you to impose hour limits on the company. He's asking that they not be allowed to use trucks on the property after 9 p.m. and not before 7 a.m. He's asking that all vehicles enter and exit on State Road, as traffic behind his house is disruptive with all the noise. Just because they are a large company that has a valuation over $1 trillion doesn't mean they get to violate the sanctity of his property and his right to peace and quiet. If Amazon wants to enter the community, they should be good neighbors, show goodwill to the neighbors they are directly impacting. They should take care of the homeowners that are directly impacted and implement either a buyout or accept restrictions on hours of operation, contribute to road repairs, and be a good neighbor by not impacting quality of life. He is suggesting that the township buy the 5 houses for $600,000 apiece and then sell them to Amazon at $5 million. The $600,000 per property shows goodwill to the residents whose properties are being disrupted by the monstrosity that council allowed to be built behind the properties against their objections. Amazon can use the goodwill impairment to take a federal tax deduction on the properties every year. He also asks that the council take up a measure to ensure that increased truck traffic that Amazon is contributing to road repair in and around the property. Mr. Tankevich followed that email up with another one, again asking that you deny the application. He's again proposing the use of eminent domain for $600,000 a house for each of the 5 houses. And if Amazon won't buy the houses on State Road, he would ask you to limit the hours of operation and access to the property, again, as he did in the earlier email. The next email was just making sure that the earlier email was received. The next email after that is a question asking what goodwill is Amazon providing to the community? How of the residents in front of the facility with all the additional traffic they will bring into the area? His next email was asking about the impact on the traffic residents on State Road. And his final email was he, again, objecting to the hours with his property being in front of their property. 1 a.m. to 10 p.m. would interfere with his sleep. Those are all the comments that we've received in regard to this application, either prior to or during tonight's hearing.
All right, gentlemen, you have any comments?
I'd like to know if the applicant has any responses to this resident's comments.
Sure. So I have quite a few, actually. First being that the initial email, which I was copied on, I think which Joe summarized and which sounds like was repeated in some of the follow-ups, focused on a couple of things. One of them being a request or a demand, I suppose, that council require some level of traffic improvements here to offset traffic impacts that are perceived from the Amazon development. I think as you've heard tonight, the traffic improvements that Amazon has agreed to are substantial and are improvements well beyond what could have or was required by the prior approval under Ivy's original land development. So I think that, from the perspective of the efforts that Amazon and LBA in conjunction are undertaking to offset traffic impacts here, we're well beyond where this project would have been if the original approval was moving forward and there were not these additional amendments. So I think we've more than addressed traffic concerns. With respect to activity on the site, as I indicated earlier, you have noise ordinances in place. They have certain restrictions under them, both with respect to decibel levels that are permitted both during the day and overnight, and those are different. They tamp down as you get into the evening. They're also lower in a situation like this where we abut a residential property. Amazon's 100% confident that we can meet all of those noise requirements and that we won't exceed any of them. We've also added additional landscaping, as I indicated, between these homes and the truck traffic, the truck docks that are to be located there. So that also adds an additional level of buffering, along there that wasn't there previously and wasn't previously proposed. I think it's important to note that this is a general industrial site. It is zoned for this use, and these properties are surrounded by other uses of this similar nature. So this is not a wild card. We're not asking for any kind of variance relief. This is the kind of use that is anticipated, that the township designed in their zoning plan for this location. So these are the kinds of uses that you would anticipate would be adjacent to each other. And then finally, I think with respect to, there seems to be some kind of insinuation in his comments that Amazon has not made any effort to work with neighbors, and I think that's just patently unfair. LBA's brokers have reached out on multiple occasions to these homeowners. They are more than happy to have conversations with them about what can be done. They are interested in outright purchase if he's willing at a reasonable price. We took a look. We've been working with LBA's brokers. This property was purchased in 2017 for $128,000. Now, I'm not suggesting that we should be purchasing it for $128,000, but I think it's fair to say that a demand for $600,000 is beyond the pale. That's not something that we can work within. We can be reasonable if the neighbors are willing to be reasonable as well. We're happy to have those conversations, but they have to pick up the phone when the broker rings, or they have to answer the door when the broker shows up. We don't have an opportunity to discuss this with them otherwise. We're happy to continue to have those conversations. I think it benefits all. I think Amazon and LBA agree that it benefits everybody to find a solution here that's comfortable for property owners, but they have to be reasonable.
Okay, thank you. And that's the only comments we have, Mr. Pizzo?
Yes.
All right, gentlemen, you have any other comments? Then at this time, I'll entertain a opportunity to put a motion on the floor regarding the land development for Amazon.com services, 3750 State Road, tax map parcel 02-079-009-005. This is a general commercial industrial classification, zoning classification.
Yeah, GI, general.
Right.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve Amazon.com services for 3750 State Road, general industrial warehouse storage, tax parcel 279-9-5. And according to, let me get back to the date here, Russ Benner's letter dated September 11, 2020, that under subdivision and land development ordinance, that they did adjust it to a minor land development on number 1, and the other 27 requests by Mr. Benner in the letter are will complies, that they also will pay for sidewalks in lieu of if it has not been paid, and that they agree with anything that the fire marshal's office has agreed, has said there's no problem with the program, but if anything comes up with the fire marshal, they make adjustments according to his request. And that's about it. Is there anything else, Mr. Pizzo, and it should be added to the
Transportation.
Yes, in addition to the notation that you made, Mr. Knowles, that the applicant will comply with all of the provisions of the T&M letter of September 11, 2020. The applicant will also comply with all of the provisions of the Township Traffic Engineer TPD letter of September 10, 2020 as well.
Okay, and they did agree to that too, but I'll add that to my motion.
All right, we have a motion on the floor, gentlemen.
I'll second.
We have a second on the motion. Any additional discussion? Not hearing any. All those in favor signify with an aye. Aye.
Aye.
Vote aye.
Any against? Any abstentions? That is unanimous. Thank you very much for your elaborate presentation, and hopefully we can work together in the future in Bensalem and Amazon Corporation. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming out this evening. I know this was not the best
Thank you.
scheduling on our part, but we really appreciate it. We'll see you
Thank
soon
you.
with phase 3. Thanks.
Thank you.
all.
See y'all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
The next agenda item is public comment. Is there any other public comment on any other items, Mr. Pizzo?
There are. Mr. Tankevich, along with his various comments for 3750, also sent in a comment regarding the police contribution resolution. I apologize, I didn't see it prior to the council voting as it sort of got lost in the sea of email in regard to 3750. The comments in regard to the police contribution resolution is, I'm against reducing pension contributions. This will create a funding gap later, and future mayors and councils will have to raise taxes to compensate for shortfalls in pension funding. There should be a document that outlines the plan for the public to fully respond. There needs to be transparency on the plan. Any vote should be withheld until the public has time to fully read and understand the details of the plan. There is an email from Brian Connolly forwarding a letter from Joseph Connolly, 568 Bristol Pike, to all council members of Bensalem Township. Over the past 4 years, I have come asking for help about my property line issue. Has anyone from the township made any attempt to look into my accusations? Because not anyone can come up with a plat map. It is a legal document that a professional land surveyor must create. After establishing property lines, the county must sign off on the land survey to make it part of official public record. A plat map is a accurate, unbiased, and trustworthy assessment of a piece of property. This is based off of old deeds, and once a property is platted, it was surveyed. Secondly, the extension of removal of the dirt pile, I would like to know when it will be removed. Mr. Neeren, do you have any updates on anything regarding the ongoing Connolly issue with the property line or the dirt pile?
No new information. There was, I believe, before last meeting, there was a court hearing that I did not attend to. Since that time, I believe Mr. Popley's engineer has submitted some older plans, but Mr. Farrell from Building and Planning has directed them to either, if they want to submit a plan regarding the drainage, they can. However, the township policy is that the dirt is supposed to be removed. I'm not sure, or I'm unaware of any deadlines or timeframes on that.
That was a court decision, is that correct?
Yes.
So
I would like to make a comment on that.
Sure.
I sent through several videos of the water streaming off that dirt pile onto Mr. Connolly's property from that dirt pile. And I mean, it's just crazy. If, you know, we're citing the man for having problems that had to do with the water coming off of Popley's property onto his property. I mean, something's got to be done. We have to look at it and come to some kind of agreement how this is going to be done.
Yeah, they submitted a plan, and I think what Quentin was talking about is they submitted a plan. It's an old plan showing removal of the dirt pile, but there was no grading provisions associated with that plan. And I think Ken got back to them stating that really any plan that they submit has to show that information to go directly to what you said, Joe, that they have to show that the stormwater, once the pile's removed, is directed at the proper location, which is to the rear of the property as opposed to the adjoining property. So Ken, I think, has informed them that we need a more detailed drainage plan than the old plan that they simply submitted.
Can we actually get what the court ordered and how long they gave him to get rid of the dirt? I mean, he can wait another 2 or 3 years, and it's not fair to that property owner that this goes on. You know, and as far as, there's a lot of things that have to be looked at there. The wall was put up by the condo association in the back. Who's responsible for that wall? Is it Mr. Connolly's property? And there's a lot of things that we have to look at and try and figure this out and come to some kind of understanding of who's responsible for what, because a lot of this stuff was done before we had zoning ordinances, before there was ever a mayor, council, government in this township. And we really have to get to the bottom of it and start giving some quality of life back to people here.
Understood.
Finally, there is an email, a letter from Bob Norkus, 4803 Bensalem Boulevard. It's addressed to the Bensalem Council. Resident opinion, don't defund public safety. I have a few additional comments in support of my letter to the council of July 27th in response to Councilman Sloan's Better Race Relations politically inspired article published in the Bensalem Courier-Times. It appears the article in the Times attempts to set the stage for the upcoming council budget negotiations designed to reduce or redirect financial resources for public safety in Bensalem Township. Incidentally, the Times has not responded whatsoever to my request for opposing resident equal time regarding the article. I fully believe Bensalem residents recognize they truly need our extremely competent public safety organization, and we realize we have exceptional police departments serving their community. Speculation about change regarding better race relations could be necessary, but for the obvious fact that our police department has taken exceedingly effective initiatives regarding community relations and public safety. This corroborated fact leaves little room for change for the sake of change. It is abundantly clear that sufficient ongoing change in the Bensalem Police Department does indeed take place by virtue of continuous improvement pertaining to rigorous training, accepted policies, and practices. Additionally, the Bensalem Township Police Department recently signed an historic agreement with the NAACP of Bucks County. I suspect there are more impressive developments to come from Mr. Harron. Kudos to the Director of Public Safety for that achievement alone and for having in place a revealing process that produces incremental improvement which is deeply embedded in the organization's culture. We as residents are fortunate to have a first-class public safety director in Fred Harron. His passionate explanation of the caliber of the police department at a former council meeting was conclusive. Yet I personally hypothesized some sort of contentious effort to undermine all of the hard work he and his officers will surface, and hope that council doesn't get into defunding proposals that would prove to be an irresponsible threat to public safety. Furthermore, it should be noted just how demeaning it was of unconscionable critics and agitators alike to confront Director Harron with superfluous condemnations and a riptide of political maneuvers under the guise of improvements. It is my hope the preposterous police defunding catastrophes occurring across the country do not influence our council's good judgment and is found to be beneath the dignity of our council members. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Bob Norkus. That's all for public comment for this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Pizzo. With that, we have that ends the public comment. We're going to move on to other business. And indeed, I believe I have Director Harron on his phone communication with us.
Yes, I'm here.
And I have him here because I wanted him to comment on the agreement that was just signed with the NAACP, with the administration and our police department. And I'd like him to elaborate on that, what exactly had happened and what that means in the future for our relationship.
Mr. President, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you very clearly.
Oh, thank you. Yes, thank you for allowing me this opportunity to come on and talk about the historic agreement that we entered into last week with the NAACP. I just want everybody to know that this was in the works for probably at least 2 months or so, that I had spoke to Karen Downer, the president of the NAACP, and basically wanted, and she shared the sentiment that wanted to share with everybody in Bensalem all the work that we've been doing. We've been doing so much good work working with that organization and other organizations for years. And in the last couple of years, as you know, as I've said a few times, the NAACP has had representation on our police hiring board, picking new officers for Bensalem Township. And I think that is really something that's only done in Bensalem. I speak to law enforcement across the country. I don't know of any other organization that does that. So with that in mind, and with all the other projects that we do, or communications, I should say, that we do, some of the things I've gone to the NAACP and spoke about different issues, and Miss Downer and I have our cell phone numbers on speed dial on our phones, and if there's ever an issue, we call one another to work out whatever that issue might be and share that information. So with that said, we talked about penning all this good information to a document and enter into a formal agreement. And we did that last week. And then following that, I sent her a list of all the command staff cell phone numbers, their titles, emails. She's sending me a list of all the key players in the NAACP. We're going to start coming to the meetings as outlined in the agreement. We're also bringing them in within the next 2 weeks to go over the hiring process, the ins and outs, to get any input from them, and going to increase our partnership as much as I can, because we think it's that important, especially in today's climate. The things that are happening around the country is not what's happening in Bensalem, and we want to make sure that continues. But what I've learned personally is that just because I think that some of the things aren't happening, and I know some of the things aren't happening, if there's people out there that are afraid to make reports to the police department, we have to deal with that. And part of the agreement was that people can go to the NAACP to act as their ambassador, if you will, to come in and sit with us, to go through if they thought they were treated unfairly, if they were stopped by a police officer unfairly, because I know at the end of the day, when the dust settles, that the Bensalem police officers have done everything right. And if we did something wrong, then we'll own up to it, we'll fix it, we'll take responsibility, and we'll move on. And we can only do that with the partnership with the NAACP. So thank you very much for allowing me to come on and really explain to the public what that a partnership and an agreement is all about.
Thank you, Fred. Are there any questions, gentlemen? All right, thanks. Moving on then, I'm going to move on to other personnel. Thank you very much. I'm going to move on to Mayor DiGirolamo. Would you like to make some comments, if you'd be kind enough?
Well, certainly I want to echo Fred, the sentiments that we talk about here. It's I've been working with Fred on this for a long time, and we've always tried to do our best here. It's not just now because of this. We've had policy in place for a long time. So it's something that we work close with. Hopefully the council sees what we're doing, work as a team, all of us. We can always make things better, and I anticipate that happening. So until the next couple of weeks when we see each other again, thanks, everybody. God bless.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're going to our council members. Mr. Polari, Vice President of Council.
Yes, Mr. Kisselbach, I want to congratulate Fred on his working with the community, and the mayor also, because I know the mayor has a lot to do with that. We do have a phenomenal community we all live in and care about, and I think that we all have to look out for each other, protect each other, and be safe. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Jesse Sloan, would you like to go on?
Sure. Thank you, everyone. Director Heron, I appreciate you coming on tonight and explaining the wonderful agreement that was signed. I think this is a culmination of a long time of, questioning what can we do better. And as the mayor just said, we can always make things better. That was always what I was trying to say, is that we can always try to make things better. I've been saying for almost 3 years now that there are people who don't feel safe. Director, you reiterated those comments at the press conference last week, and this is certainly a step in the right direction to help make people feel more safe, give them another avenue where if they have a problem, they can go and make sure that, we're protecting all of our residents, throughout the township. So thank you all very much. The other thing that I just want to say is, schools started up for Bensalem schools last week. This has been the most challenging time ever to be a parent if you have young ones. Good luck to all the other parents out there. I know my kids are eager to be back in the school building as soon as all of this is over. But for now, I hope everyone is staying safe.
Thank you. Councilman Knowles, Secretary.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Kisselback, President Kisselback. Yeah, I would just like to reiterate a little bit. I think the most important thing, a lot of the things with the NAACP agreement, official agreement, we already had those things in place, but it did make it official. And also, it got out the word to the public that they can go to the NAACP if they feel that they feel better and better represented to come to the police with a complaint. Just that getting that out more to the public was important. And then also, I think it was mentioned during that, if someone's more comfortable to go to a clergy person, a religious leader, or a clergy person, or another community leader, or to any of the council members, that they feel more comfortable coming in with one of us, that they also have that option too, which is a good thing. I did want to quickly I should have asked this earlier, but if Quentin's here again, do we have any update on Fishers and whether anything's been done about them cementing the front of their property without a permit and possibly causing water issues onto Unionville and Street Road? Do we have any progress on that? I know you said that Ken asked that they put in for a permit, but I mean, has PennDOT done anything yet about them sealing signs and cement and also, doing that work without a permit?
I have a call into PennDOT, actually two calls, one to their inspector as well as to their Bucks County director. I've not heard back from the director yet. The inspector did inform me he was going to look into it and try and see what the status was on their end, but I'm assuming they've not applied for any Pennsylvania HOP permits. On our end, I've not seen any new permits come in. I know the one permit submission was rejected when I last met with them and Ken Farrell. They were recommended to hire a professional to design something. I'm not sure if Russ has seen anything new come in on his end of anything.
But we're staying on top of it. We're on top of it.
Yes.
Okay. Just want to make sure it's not causing water problems on Unionville Road, that we get into the winter and it's going to be water, it's going to be ice, along that area. All right. Thank you. That's all I got. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I agree with Mr. Knowles in terms of the timing of that. It's got to be something that's got to be moved along. Comes wintertime, it'll be an ice skating rink on Unionville Road there. Mr. Tokmajian, Councilman Tokmajian.
Thank you, Mr. Kisselback. As well as everyone else, I wanted to acknowledge the efforts of Director Horan and Karen Downer, President of Bucks County's chapter of NAACP. Several weeks ago, Councilman Sloan and I had simply asked and encouraged a positive dialogue amongst all the council members and how we can jointly react to the nation's ongoing race issues and climate, as Director Horan had pointed out. So I see the agreement as significant progress in continuing to move forward as a top-notch, highly recognized police department and municipality. And I completely agree with the mayor that we can always make things better. Secondly, I wanted to Jewish New Year is coming up, I think, this week, and wanted to wish those a happy Rosh Hashanah. And third point was school has started last week, and wanted to welcome all of our Bensalem students back to virtual learning. I want to thank all of our teachers and our schools, all of our schools here in Bensalem, high school, our Holy Ghost, our charter, for accepting the challenges of virtual teaching and ensuring all of our students are reached. Virtual learning is, I know, is certainly difficult, and I know our teachers are doing everything they can to ensure our students continue to be successful. That's all I have. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. I'm going to reiterate what everyone has. I might as well start. Let me interrupt myself and go to our solicitor first. Mr. Pizzo, I'm sorry.
Just one thing that I've observed, not all the students in Bensalem are learning virtually. There are a number of Bensalem students who are in fact going to brick and mortar schools on a daily basis. And so to that end, there are school flashing, the school zones that have flashing lights. Drivers, please observe those because there are kids in those schools. There are kids who are waiting to catch buses to go to schools that are other than Bensalem public schools, but they are Bensalem students, they are Bensalem children. They go to school and they're catching buses, they're getting dropped off from buses. So please observe the school buses and please follow the school zones. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pazzo. And I'm going to add to what was said just a moment ago. The fact that the police department has written an agreement with the NAACP is a very, very good thing, because now the public knows what the police department has been doing for all the years in the past. Having a partner with the NAACP should only be an improvement in terms of the communications throughout the community, so I think that within itself is excellent. And I give my regards to both Karen Downer and Fred Harron in terms of their initiatives and being proactive in terms of relationship with our community. A couple days, we have the Rosh Hashanah, so I'd like to wish everyone a Happy New Year in our Jewish community. And that's going to be before we have our next meeting, so happy holidays to everyone on that. And with that, I'm just going to end our meeting and say good night to everyone. And do we have a motion to
I
conclude?
make a motion, we adjourn.
All right, we have a motion. All those in favor signify with an aye.
All right.
Aye, thank you. Good night, gentlemen.
Good night, guys.